Okay, make sure I have this one muted. Yes, no. Come on. Uh-oh. Now my computer's freezing. Okay. It's gotta be working. Okay, there we go. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the first live show of the SJM-ALONG. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It's actually happening. Let's say hi to everybody. Oh, we survived. There was snowstorms, there was rainstorms, there was tornadoes. But somehow we made it through. Mm-hmm. I know this book was difficult for some people. We were talking about a little bit. But, well, everybody say hi. You guys are so quiet. I said hello and everyone's
like, oh, hi, guys. Hello.
Say hello.
We're like, are we live? Are we going? What's going on?
Yeah, we're going. We're going. I'm showing everyone. Everyone's piling in here.
It seems like everybody's as excited as we are to like have to dive into this conversation.
Corey and Sam, we are. It's gonna be great. I think all of you have been on my channel at one point, but let's just say hey, just in case. Y'all are on my channel, so you probably know me, but let's go around and say hello.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm from the channel Book Bar. I'm a baby booktuber, but this was my first time reading Throne of Glass. But I started backwards. I started with Crescent City, and then I went to ACOTAR, and now I'm reading Throne of Glass. So
yes, say that what she just did, wish you've read it or not. You're like, I forget. Good. Thanks for saying that. I meant to say that.
I could read your mind, Jen.
Hi, I'm Carrie. I'm booked for romance. Unfortunately, I do a little bit of YouTube, but I'm mostly on Instagram now, just because if there was 26 hours in a day, I'd have videos up. But since my time is so short, Instagram's kind of where I'm at now. Throne of Glass is a reread for me, because if you don't know me, I'm a Sarah J. Maas fanatic. So so I love her, and I cannot wait to talk about this.
Yay. I guess we're dropping down to me. So I'm Taji from Taji's World of Books, and I am also a YouTuber and love all things books and have read all of Sarah J. Maas's everything that she's put out, but I haven't read Throne of Glass. I feel like I only read it once, and it's been years since I've, touched it again. So I'm happy to be back in this world. And I was telling Jen that, this has been a completely different reading experience for me the second time around, because the first time I was really frustrated with Celaena, and this time I'm like, oh my God, I'm loving it, and it's amazing, and I'm just so happy to be here. So Thanks for having me, Jen.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Jessin from Jessin Reads Romance. I'm also a newbie, just like Melissa, to this series. This is my first time reading Throne of Glass. I started off reading ACOTAR first, then Crescent City. And then after everyone was freaking out about like connections, I was like, well, I have to go read Throne of Glass now. So this is going to be an interesting ride.
It will. I was already, I'm so excited for certain characters to show up. Sorry, I won't jump ahead. I have an order of operations to go through, but like, there's so many characters where I'm like, I can't wait for this person to show up and like this person to show up. And just, oh my God, I'm so excited.
I'm so impressed that you even remember that, because I'm like, I didn't remember all of the characters, and I'm like, okay, so I have like a little character list in my notes on the side, so I can try to pinpoint or parallel like the parallelisms with Crescent City to this series as well, because I feel like there's like overlapping or similarities of characters. So it'd be an interesting thing to see.
Oh, I have the Sarah J. Maas wiki open all the time. Like, I don't suggest that for people who haven't read them all, though, because it's literally it's a spoiler place. But if you've read them already, it's very helpful.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
So
I'm making my own list right now just so I can have characters, because I didn't want to get into spoiler territory. I do want to like experience Throne of Glass with as little spoilers as possible. So I know nothing about this series, which is great for me. That's how I like it.
I love it. Let's go through a clear
reread. Jessin.
First timer. Yeah, because literally, like, I went to the wiki to look up, like, there was one name I wanted to look up to make sure, and then I was like, oh yeah, right on the front page, there's just all these spoilers and stuff. So I was like, because I was going to tell people to go to that. I was like, no, actually you can't. You can't.
Right.
But the people who've read it before, you should check out it's at fandom.com. You should check that out because that'll be helpful. First time. Okay. People are going too fast. First time. Yes. And Renee, she had commented in the Discord, she's already on to Crown of Midnight because she couldn't be patient. So that made me excited.
Don't worry, Renee. I had to sit on my hands. I wanted to jump right into the next one. I was like, nope, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go slow.
First time reactions. Yes.
I know. I held off reading Throne of Glass until this weekend because I was like, I know I'm going to go right into the next one. So I need to wait until the last minute.
Yeah. This one has probably the best breaking point. I feel like a lot of first books in series can have the best breaking point because an author maybe doesn't know if they're going to get how many books they're going to get.
Right.
Because the rest of them don't have such nice places to stop.
Lots of cliffhangers, I hear.
Yeah. And y'all so blessed you don't have to wait so long. I'm so
right. 100%. Waiting 2 years is torture on one of them.
I didn't have that experience with the Tower of Dawn because I read ACOTAR first, and then I went back and read Throne of Glass. So they were all already out when I read them. So I was able to plow through it. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, because Tower of Dawn didn't bother me because I was able to jump from that right into the next one. Whereas whenever people talked about that, I was like, oh my God, that'd be horrible. I would have been so upset to wait 2 years for the next one.
Yeah.
It was pretty brutal.
Yeah. This has been the third time. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go to some of mine. So first we're going to start with the first time readers reactions and just kind of like an overall, not necessarily a rating. I mean, people can say their rating if they want, but for this readathon, I'm not really so interested in what like ratings of the books are. I'm more interested in like talking about the content of it. So if in our comments and our hosts who this is their first time, just some of that. Don't necessarily go into the characters because we're going to go through character by character for this, but just like the overall thoughts, what you're thinking, any, maybe some speculations you're having, but let's kind of start with that.
So I knew going in that it was more of like, it was definitely more YA, even more so than ACOTAR was. And so that helped me going into it because if I didn't know that, I probably wouldn't have liked it. Because I'd have been like, this is not what I'm used to when it comes to Sarah J. Maas. But I enjoyed it. And I liked, knowing what I know after reading other series, I was able to like look for little hints. And I was like, oh, this sounds like something from back there. So it was a fun experience reading it.
Yeah.
So, I struggled with this one just a little bit. I felt like it was a little slow. And yeah, I don't want to talk about like characters yet, but I wasn't quite as interested in it. And I think even knowing it was more YA, because I just don't read YA anymore. It's been a long time. This one felt so much more YA than ACOTAR. I enjoyed ACOTAR like almost from the beginning. And this one, I was like forcing myself to get into it and waiting for action to start happening. And once action started happening, I was like, okay, this is interesting. And like Melissa said, I was trying to look for clues. Thankfully, Jen, though, I would tell her what part I was at. And she's like, hey, make sure you pay attention. Like here. I'm like, okay. All right, great. Taking notes. So yeah, it was an interesting, but I knew that the plot didn't get going for a couple of books. So I wasn't too disappointed or anything.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, same. I knew it was a slower build.
Yeah. I know Ruchi was talking about this in the Discord where she's like, is this gonna like get better? And I was like, yes, I promise. I understand. That's why we're doing this as a reread and a readathon together, because I think the enthusiasm of the rereaders can like help buoy people if you need it to. Because I was waiting to see if there was more first-time readers. But I think for me, I was immediately looking at the nuances of stuff. And I understand that first impressions, specifically of like Celaena, could sour a lot of people because it did for me the first time through. And this time around, I was much more paying attention to the clues to, I don't want to say those things, but like clues to things. Like, so some of the things I told Justin to watch is like, there are some random POV characters thrown in, right? Like we get this POV of like Cain, and we're like, who the fuck is this? And we randomly get, we only get like 1 or 2 POVs from the boys. Well, I think there is only 1 POV of each guy in it, because I was trying to watch that out. And I told them to look out for weapons. Weapons are an important thing. Like, that's what I'm looking out for this time. But overall, like, I had so much fun this time because I know that this book doesn't matter so much. Like, it matters for us to meet people, and it matters to, I feel like, starting to get a lay of like the different countries and the things that have happened in the past. But I know that it's like, this is basically just an assassin competition where we're playing like, and then there were none. That's basically what's happening in this one, in my opinion. But that's what I thought. How about some of you others who reread it?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to start off by saying I think Sarah J. Maas is a genius. I'm just going to go off by saying that first.
Carrie's just like a stan. Sarah J. Maas can do no wrong.
But you know what? I'm going to be real with you, Justin. I pretty much felt the same way you did when I first read it. Now, going into this reread now, I could just see what she was trying to set up for the future. I could see where she was going to be taking it. And that's why, because it was a much lower rating when I first read it to the rating I have for it now. So like I could see where so now that I know that what's happening in the future, it's nice to go back and see what I missed, because you'll miss things that she drops and not even think twice about it. Yeah. So for me, I just think that she played it smart, because you have to think too with other fantasy authors. Like, I love romance. I love romance. This had like barely any romance in it, and I loved it. So for me, like, to be able to like chug me along with like without any romance in it, I thought it was pretty. I thought it was genius.
I also dropped that a few times to people of like, just remember how love interests happen in some of her other books. Like, that's all we remember this, because we have some people picking teams already, and I was like, you do that, you pick a team. Sarah J. Maas was just like, make my day, pick a team. And it's also one of those where like there are literally spoilers everywhere out there, and until you actually like notice that they're spoilers, you don't know that they're spoilers, type of thing. But now that's part of the reason too why we're going to read the first books a lot faster than we're going to read later books, because I was like, I don't want to ruin this for anyone, let's keep going. But what was the other thing I was going to say? I do think what is bananas, having read the whole series, is that her 16-year-old brain really was setting some of this stuff up already. That's what's amazing to me, because obviously I think there's that thing of like, you can sometimes outthink yourself, where you have a plan for what it's going to be and you start to lay the seeds, but then even you discover more about what it's going to be. So do I think she knew the entire story arc of all the books? No, of course not. But it's a little chilling when you start to see certain things dropped in. So
I totally agree. I think she was genius to write this in high school. Was it high school she wrote this?
Yeah, she started when she was 16. Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I definitely, I agree with everything that you guys have said. I read this with a different lens the second time, because I was looking for the clues and like the little Easter eggs. So I was, I enjoyed it so much more, and I paid attention to different things this time, where I was really looking for the romance last time and the building of the romance. And I was like, where's the spice? It's missing. This is billed to me as like a fantasy romance, and I've got nothing. Whereas this time I didn't even care about that. I cared more about understanding the world, understanding like magic, or what happened to the magic and what's going on with these word gates. And like, so I was taking note of all of that historical information. And, I'm not sure what I can say without spoiling it, but I just want to say, like, why did somebody do away with libraries and where are all the books and what's going on with it. So like I was making note of that stuff, like sort of clues. So that was interesting for me.
I'll just pop this up. You can keep going. But that's what I want to ask of the first timers. I want to ask what they're thinking of the world. Do you have a good sense of it? Have you looked at your map at all? What do you think of your map? Does your map look similar to any other maps you might have seen? Things like that.
I just want to say this. You just want to say this really quickly, and it's really funny, Jen, that you said that, because like my mind must think in a certain way, because I went and got ACOTAR, and I went and got all the Throne of Glass books, and I got like all, and I like pulled out all the maps, and I was like, okay, where's this, and how does this relate, and if I make a copy and put it over here, you know what I mean? Like I was trying to like lay out a footprint to see like if there were some parallelisms or if they changed from book 1 to book 5 and so on and so forth. I was definitely thinking about that. So sorry, Jessin, go ahead.
No, it's okay. No, that's actually one of the things that I wanted to do, because I don't know, I think I might have been talking to Juliet whenever we were podcasting, and I was like, I'm so weird. I love maps and fantasy worlds. Like it's like one of my favorite things. But since I don't have like a lot of time to read at the moment, I hadn't had time to go compare the maps. And that's one of the things that I wanted to do so badly, because I'm kind of like looking at hints, because you know the world building with the Fae, and where have they gone, and you know you're not allowed to use magic anymore, so that all interests me so much, and I was looking for those things, and I love that. But I felt like it was few and far between the times that we talked about it in this particular book. It was more focused on the, you know, like Jen said, like the assassin games and stuff. And I wasn't quite interested in that at all. And I wasn't interested in the love triangle at all. So I was actually wanting more. I wanted more Fae stuff. I wanted more. I just wanted more. So that's how the world building was for me. It was a little lackluster, I will say.
Yeah.
But it was there. It just was too tiny for me.
Yeah.
Tiny, like you had to pay attention to it, and when it happened, it was sort of peppered real tiny in there, and I had to go, all right, let me back up, let me write this down, okay, this is, and then I was trying to like map out a timeline, because you know, so I was going to say favor, and I'm like, not, that's wrong book, let me come back. Celaena was mentioning about her childhood and stuff that happened, and this is like history with Terracin, and like this is where the Fae came from, and I was like, wait, let me make a note of that, and then it would come up a little bit later on, so it was really buried, and you had to hunt for it to find it. For sure.
Well, and I mean, I don't know, like I think upon reread too, though, for me, like they definitely popped out, because I know what names I'm listening for this time, and I know what, you know, like there is. Whoa, hit that. Like, it hasn't been that long that all this stuff was banned. You know, it only happened 8 years ago that everything's banned. And if anyone, well, not only if they read the novella, but like how many years has Celaena been an assassin? How long has this stuff happened? You know, the little things that were like left at her feet when she's being taken there, and her other name that she, anyway, okay, we're gonna move along. I'm already jumping ahead to things, but I just mean like I think they are very hidden in there, but they're also like they really pop out because their names we'll hear over and over and over as we go. But again, I skim read this book the first time, so I was way into it this time, because that's just how it is when you read it. This time I was like, this is so great.
Exactly.
And I skim read it the first time I read it. The first like 2 books I kind of skim read. So I'm excited.
And I even looked at my Goodreads rating. I was like, what was I on crack? Like, why did I rate it so low? I'm like, it's this number, not this. Like I could totally change because I'm in a different headspace, you know?
So I didn't have, like, I wanted to go back and look at the maps, but I haven't had a chance to, because again, I read it on my Kindle. So it's harder to look at the maps, but there were things that, you know, obviously not going to say anything for future stuff, but there were like things I'd like highlight and like write like notes, like, this thing question mark, like this question, you know, so that way I can go back once we've gotten further along and be like, oh, okay, I do see how they all connect.
The world was pretty interesting. However, I had a great deal of questions that you must mean unanswered. Well, it is the first book First Lady reads. I mean, she can't answer all the questions. That wouldn't entice people to read the next one. For me, the world building is kind of right amount for me. Yeah, That's fair.
You know, the other thing I thought was interesting for me, and I don't know for those of you that have, this is a reread and that you guys have read all of the books, like I sort of felt like at first, when I read it the first time, I felt like it left me hanging and the world building wasn't enough. Whereas this time around, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's all these clues and all of this production of this world where we're going and what this is going to mean. And so this book is so foundational that you don't want to miss those things because it'll sort of, you'll get lost if you don't pay attention to all of that, like how she's setting it up. Does that make sense? Or did I say too much? No.
I was waving at Amanda, even though she's, hi, Amanda. Thanks for showing up for the crazy times. I like what Daniela said. Well, and also Renee's never read any fantasy before. So, well, that's great. I think that's I think a lot of us have this past too, where like, I exclusively read YA fantasy for about 10 years of my life. It was the dystopian and fantasy that was like the only thing I read. Well, and historical romance. I've always read historical romance. But that's all I read. So I think part of the thing is too, is like I'd read so much YA fantasy, and I read Throne of Glass for the first time when I was 22. So I mean, in all people have read this at all ages, but I know for me, because I'd read 10 years of YA fantasy, and then at 22 I read this, I was kind of like, I've literally read all of this before. Okay, like that's how I felt at 22, and now I'm just like, but this series is so good. So.
Right. I think with the world building too, I liked the amount she did, because in her other series, we're gonna just say, she got a little info dumpy.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I like it to be slow and easy, because I'm not a person where you throw a lot of information out at me and it absorbs. Like, I'll forget a ton of stuff. So if you don't kind of mellow me into it, I'll forget.
Agree.
I like that. I'm wondering if maybe I have just a little different view on the world building, because I barely read any YA fantasy ever. And I actually cut my teeth on adult fantasy. So I feel like I was reading like heavy world building. Like I've always been into like heavy, crazy world building. And I like taking notes on stuff like that. So maybe that's why I was just kind of like, I would just want more. But I don't think that it's a bad introduction to the world at all. There is lots of stuff that she did mention. I just personally wanted more of it. But I don't think it's a bad introduction to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I mean, it's like half the size of most of her other books. So
it's true. It's true. Well, yeah. And I think, I don't know, I won't even, like, within this story, even she'll have aspects of that. Like, there's a lot of world building to come. You know, there's entire continents we haven't gotten to yet. So there's a lot. But that's a really interesting perspective, Jess. And I wouldn't, what are the words I'm gonna, like, I haven't thought of it from that perspective, because that would make a big difference, because I've read a lot of adult fantasy too, and usually I'm like, help, I'm drowning.
It is a lot. It's a lot.
But when you're used to it, I mean, I was in a phase of like reading Terry Goodkind and reading that stuff where you're just like, the book this big, and like 3/4 of it are all this stuff you have to keep straight in your head because it's going to be important, you know?
Yeah, like Brandon Sanderson.
Oh, yeah.
He's like that too.
He makes it palpable for me.
Right.
You know, he gives it to you when you need it. Whereas I think that's definitely a mark of like 80s and 90s. A good
writer.
Adult fantasy is, I mean, even fantasy now, I'm not saying that we've moved past it, but the certain type of it. Okay. So because of that, maybe we'll ask that one last. Let's start going through the characters first, because that's kind of an ending question that I had. All right, let's go through the characters. Let's start talking, because I know this chick, man, she's got some problems. So let's start going through our characters here. I have a few for us. So what do we think of Celaena Sardathian, our super badass assassin who's 18 years old and has been in prison for 2 of the years? So she's a badass assassin. At 16, she's the best assassin in the world. Someone explain to me how that's a thing.
Yeah, that's a little crazy, but I like her. I think she's very snarky, and like she's like, I know I'm the best. But I like that she also had that young, like, perspective of like, maybe I'm not the best. Like at one point she said, I don't know if I can win this.
Yeah.
Because she had like a lot going on. I mean, she's still basically a child. So I liked that she knew she was really good, but she also got humbled at parts.
Yeah.
So Celaena, I didn't dislike her or hate her. I wanted more proof to back up her reputation, I guess. And I think that was just something that I was looking for more like in the games. I wanted more demonstrations of like, I'm fucking badass. And like, we barely got that. We got like archery and like pick your poison. And I was just like, please show me that you can kick some ass. Like, that's what I was looking for. Like, I was like, I wanted to see this girl like show me what she was made of, because I felt like she was pretty confident most of the time. And like Melissa said, there was moments where she, was doubting herself a little bit, but she did read really young, especially just like the thoughts that she had. She was pretty obsessed with, and I associate this with YA, and I don't know if it's fair or not, but she was pretty obsessed with like all the clothing and the dresses she was wearing and just the prettiness of everything. And I was just kind of like, ugh. I just wanted to get more in assassin mode, and that's all I'll say.
Yeah. See, a lot of people like arrogance, so I think a lot of people were loving it. But I will tell that throughout the series, until probably Empire of Storms, I would get super irritated with Celaena. Like,
Yeah.
And I know not everyone will feel that way for me, but something that I think Sarah, the author, will specifically struggled with through this series was a lot of tell and not show. And there's a lot of, I know something you don't know, and you're not going to know it till I want you to know, but that doesn't make sense because we're in that character's head. So why don't I know what the character knows?
Right.
Like she's not an unreliable narrator all the time. She just is for specific characters at certain points. And that was something that bothered me about Celaena at different times. But once we find out like more about her, I understand why some certain things, but that doesn't mean I like it when I'm reading it at the time. So I don't know. That is me saying a lot while not saying anything.
I appreciate you guys keeping it vague for the newbies who have not read anything yet.
I know. Well, there's so many good reveals that I'm just literally like bite my tongue because I know.
Well, it'll be so fun once we read it, and then you can see our reactions, and we'll be like, "Oh my god, it's amazing!" Like I fully expect to be wowed during this readathon, like fully.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I dealt with her like in the beginning. She irritated and frustrated me with her like over self-assuredness and really cocky, where she didn't really demonstrate that she had the right to have that. But I guess over time, without spoiling anything, like I looked at it like character development. Like we developed with her. Even if you start with Assassin's Blade and those short stories, like some of the things that happens there, you see where she is then in Throne of Glass. You see development in her, and you see some change, but not the amount that we want to see. But ultimately where she winds up, then I'm like, okay, now I can deal with you. Like you're a better version of yourself. But in the beginning, I was like, you're a lot to handle, a lot to take,
This is a good point, Stacey. I like this one. She kept going through how she could escape, but she would wait and see what was going to happen. Because if the king is really telling the truth, if he really does what he says he will, she will be able to be free without having to go on the run. But will she live through everything, So that's a good point. And I think, so one thing I did want to bring up too, there's something about where I don't fully believe that a 16-year-old could be the best assassin there is, but there's something to be said about reputation. The fact that people think that she is, the fact that she was built up to be the best assassin. I think there's something to say for people thinking that you're better at something that you are, and then they're less likely to fuck with you. And I think we see some of that in action with her. But then that's to her detriment, because when she's in the competition, they won't let her say who she is. So she doesn't get to use that tool of like saying who she is and having that like reputation behind her. She just has to give up the good. She has to be able to prove it, So it's interesting.
For Celaena, I just put, seriously, I wrote things out for each character, and literally I put main character, period. Like, literally, that's what she is to me. Main character. Like, I loved her at certain points. I disliked her at certain points. Like, you just chug along with her. And like Tati, I'm sorry, I can't speak right now, had said, like, it's character development at the end. Like, the way she develops her character is how I don't want a perfect character. I want someone who's flawed and has issues and everything like that, because I want to see what kind of person she's going to grow to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want the chosen one where everything is easy for them. You want them to have challenges and struggles that they have to work through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And she has difficult choices to make. And when she makes those difficult choices, you can see that she's impacted by it. She thinks about it. She's bothered by it. So you know that there's in the depths of her soul, she's good. You know, she is a good person, but she's put in these morally gray sort of situations that she has to navigate through at a very young age. And she messes up and she does the wrong thing. And she's like overly self-confident, but we love her anyway. You know, you're like, you got to get it together, girl. You know.
Also, a couple aspects of her to point out is that she is a very caring person under that. Like, she feels duty to people. Like, you know, if we, you know, when we think about like the assassin and the pirate lord, what that whole novella is about, she does have this innate sense of justice. So it is very interesting that she lives a big portion of her life as an assassin. Of course, an assassin with rules, because don't they always have rules? But these little aspects of her character that she maybe has tried to hide, that she's like, you know, these aspects of me never served me well. I ended up in Endovir because of things, you know, like, I'm not going to be that person. Let me try something else. But then when she comes up against injustices, she can't just let them go. Like, literally, she's in a competition against other killers and murderers, and she's still trying to keep them from having unjust deaths. So there are things we're seeing about her that she maybe doesn't like about herself. You know, I think she wishes she could walk away from people at times.
Well, and the way she even said, like, I have never fit in with like the big dog. I've always gone with like the underdog. She's always been friends with the underdog. She didn't in Endovir. She wasn't one of the favorites. She was with the people that got beaten. And then it's the same with like the two Nox and Pelor or whatever his name was. They were the underdogs of the competition, and she stuck with them. Yeah, and went over to like the big dog Cain.
Mm-hmm. It was very Hunger Games. She's very like Katniss and her have a lot of similarities. Mm-hmm. Flabbergasted by the complexity every time. Well, hey, Josephine showed up. Hey, girl. Hey.
I have a question. I don't know if it's something that you would plan later, but I just want to know, for the people who have read all of her books, where do you rank Celaena against her other female leads?
Oh, against
the other series females. Like, where do you rank her?
Okay, just the three main ones. Or we do that? Or do you want like,
however you want it?
I mean, Feyre is always first for me, but she'd be like right behind her, because I like them for very different reasons. For me personally, Bryce is cool, but Bryce hasn't done enough for me to be like, oh my god, I love you. So her arc is not done. Like Bryce is not done. So I'm, but even like, I don't know. That's where I
probably. That's a tough one.
Nesta too, but I don't have enough time with Nesta to be as connected with her as I am. Mm-hmm. But for me, like, I don't know. So where do you put Celaena?
She wrote them so well and so differently. So it was like, if you pick out different like features to them, then I'd be like, oh, that's Celaena, or that's Feyre. Like, I could do that, but like to put them head to head, that'd be tough.
Yeah. Carrie, don't cop out. Come on. I want you to rank them.
Also part of it is like, this series alone has about 15 women who are fucking phenomenal. Right. So it's very, that's 100%. Why I asked every time about top three. Like, You don't even know. We haven't even met.
We have not met some really good ones yet.
I'm like, if we were just talking about Pharaoh, Celaena, and Bryce, like I don't know. I love Pharaoh a lot, but.
And in fairness to Bryce, I haven't even read book 2 for CC2 yet. So I don't even, I'm late to the show on that one, but I haven't read it yet.
She's the last of the 3 for you. Well, I disagree. Right. I mean, if we want to talk about Hot Mess Express, Bryce is way further down.
Yeah. Now, I will say that
more tied to the men.
Sarah J. Maas, for some of her female characters, I struggle with them in the beginning of the book, and then they grow on me a lot. Like I know we're not into Crescent City yet, but I struggled with Bryce in the beginning so much. Like the first couple chapters, I was like, I don't like her. I don't like her at all. And then I ended up by really loving her. Mm-hmm. So I'm not down and out about Celaena yet at all. I'm just waiting for her.
To grow. I have no doubt. I have no doubt, because I know you're pretty good, and I have. There are things, man. There are things. Okay. Please say things. Okay. I gotta keep going. We gotta keep going. That's only the first woman, and we're 36 minutes. Okay. Prince Dorian. We're gonna start with Prince Dorian. What do we think of Dorian? How do people feel about him?
Well, knowing what I know about other SJM series, I'm not getting too attached.
But okay, yes, right. What I want to say though is there's no Tamlin situation, as in the character of Tamlin type man.
Okay.
I meant that as in don't get attached in a.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I'm glad you know that, because I didn't know that. I was thinking it was going to be a similar situation there too.
I absolutely adore this precious being, but based off of this book, I'm just like, okay, cool.
I don't know. He just seemed, he read a bit of a playboy, but like I know that there's deeper stuff, and I was waiting for more to happen with this character. I felt like we just got really surface level with him in this book, and like just hints, just very small hints. Yeah. So I don't really know him that well after the first book, I will say.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like I don't think we got enough of him to really make an opinion, and now that I know that there's not going to be a Tamlin situation, I can grow more attached.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love him. Yes, Tori. I feel you. Okay. Well, you know what? If your dad was very oppressive, evil person, he's trying his best. He's trying to be subversive. You know, he goes to get the assassin out of prison.
Right.
And which mostly, like, okay, let's look at it. He's mostly doing it because he wants to like one up his dad. You know, he wants his assassin to be the one working with his dad, and then maybe that assassin will owe him something so that they will let him in, you know, like he could get a clue. Mm-hmm. But Dorian is a noble who hasn't had to go through too much yet. You know, he's a little bit of a ladies' man. He's got a couple stalkers. It's cool. Go ahead. What?
When he went to Endovir and was like, "Oh my gosh, this is horrible! Like, I can't believe that." Like, made me. I was like, "Oh, he's so sweet."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jesse.
Yeah, I feel like Dorian too is the one where he's trying to do his acts of rebellion the best he can without his dad knowing about it. So I could see him as he's playing his character as a chess game, and he's trying to move the pieces around the best he can right now. And there's only so much he can do.
He also hasn't had any extremely motivating things yet. He just is feeling a little restless in his position, but he hasn't had the thing that really kicks him in the ass yet.
Right.
You know, like he's starting to be like, I don't know if I like how these things are happening, but you know, that's all. You know, like that's all that we're at right now. But
And you could definitely see that there were several scenes where he wanted to do more and wanted to act more, but he was really held back by his station, his position, the relationship with his father. So you really felt for him because he was like stuck, you know, and immobilized by that fear or just reticence or whatever. So, but it'll come in time. I just want to give him time to get in the right place to be able to do what he needs to do.
Yeah. I liked Prince Dorian and how he wasn't made to be the stereotypical clueless royal that doesn't understand. Yeah, that's true. He is fine. A few things he said made me frown. Entitled and naive. Good. Yep. I think naive is a good word.
I was going to say, that's a good assessment right there.
There's a journey ahead of him. Well, to me, his like naivete is a main reason why nothing more than a kiss happens between them, you know, because it's like Celaena just knows that there's so much she doesn't know, and not that she's in a position for there to be more with him either, but it's just like, I don't want to pull him into stuff. He's living in his little fantasy world right now, so.
She definitely had more insight because she's like, how's that going to work where I'm the king's assassin and you're the prince? And like, how are we going to get to like, you know, we need to separate it. He's like, no, we can hide it. We can work around it. She's like, that's never going to work.
He's going to need an arranged marriage at some point. Maybe, you know, I'm not saying that's fact. I'm saying you're probably going to need that. Like, it's not going to work out.
Yeah. Right. It just complicates things unnecessarily in an already complicated situation.
Yeah. But if I was in a situation, I would probably go terrified. You'd be terrified to do something against his dad. Yes. His dad's pretty scary.
Yep.
That is a great thing to pull out. Sorry. His relationship with his dad was the most interesting part of his storyline. I am glad that is what you saw. That is a good thing to note.
Well, and he has a little brother, right? Who like they talk about as being
apparently he's terrible.
Yeah.
So like, kind of has to be a little more level-headed, I guess.
His little brother is a Joffrey, if that reference.
He sounded like that.
Yeah, his little brother is a Joffrey. They have to keep him out of, you know, keep him away from people so he's not, you know, ripping.
Okay.
Didn't they say, like, and I don't remember clearly, but didn't they say in this book that the little brother like beat up the nanny or beat somebody else or something?
Yeah.
He's a psychopath.
Yeah. Well, he's big. I love that assessment. He's Joffrey. I would have never made that connection, but it's totally true. Totally true.
He seems too moldable because his father and how quick he fell for Celaena, you must mean. But same can be said for Chaol. Yeah. Nope, that's right, Carly. We're just getting started here. Mm-hmm. Dorian is a character that I root for because I want him to push the boundaries. Yes, Tori, that's a great assessment. Mm-hmm. The character arcs.
It's hard too because I feel like for Dorian, I want to say more, but I can't.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like my reviews are going to be very short.
Yeah. He really looked like a boy when he kissed her. Oh, yeah. He's cute. He was very starry-eyed for her. I think she's like, in his mind, she's the bad girl, and he's like, she looks so pretty in her dress. And okay, but let's wait. Okay. He gives her candy and he gives her a puppy. Let's not forget this. Fleetfoot. Sarah J. Maas told us when she was writing the series, she said the only character who is 100% safe is Fleetfoot. The puppy lives, everyone. The puppy lives. She told us that, I think it was around like Queen of Shadows or whatever. She's like, the only one I promise you will live is Fleetfoot. Everyone else, be warned. But the puppy lives.
Oh.
Sweet. Okay, I'm going to keep moving on here. Okay, so now, Chaol. Everyone who didn't know how to say it. It's chaos, but with an L. It's Chaol. Mm-hmm. Chaol, not Prince. He's not Prince. Captain of the Guard. Chaol. This is another point of like a character who he's 19 and is the captain of the guard. Yeah. Of the king. Like I can understand if he was like the prince's captain of the guard, but he's the king's captain of the guard, and he's 19. Mm-hmm. And I know she did that because like, I need the three main characters to like kind of be around the same age. But I'm like, he's someone who should have been like, make him 28. Like, but we can't because it's YA. And I'm like, but that's what it'd be like. He would have been the older captain of the guard, and then like Dorian would be like 20 and Celaena would be 18. Like that age range makes sense to me. Even for an adult fantasy, you could have that. But to have him be like 19 and he's the best one, like, no. Anyway, sorry. I'm not criticizing Chaol for his age. I'm criticizing the fact that is he 22? Was I wrong about how old he is?
He's
I thought
22.
it's Dorian's 19. Okay. See, I went on a rant about nothing, but still not old enough.
I actually was more, sorry, you go. Go, Carrie.
No. I was just saying, did they ever say, because this is a question I actually had as a rereader, did he get that position because of his family? Was that ever like stipulated at any point?
I remember there was a mention about his family, but I don't think they ever really addressed how he got it. Do you?
No. He got it in spite of, because we haven't discussed his family yet. But his family's not happy that he left.
Okay.
So like I was completely wrong about this. This was just a theory that I had going, and I was like, oh, what if he's like the bastard son and that's why he got this position? And like that's what I was assuming at first, but then whenever he mentioned his family, I was like, oh, well, that's a bad theory. Okay, never mind. But I thought that he got the position because it was kind of like, oh, got to do something with my bastard. But I was thinking about that. I was like, man, all these young people getting all these high positions. But I found him to be more interesting just because he felt like he had a lot on his plate. Like he felt like he had to watch Celaena, had to watch Dorian, because Dorian's trying to sneak off with her. And I just felt like he was the one that was the most responsible at times. And I just wanted to know more about him. But again, same with Dorian, I didn't feel like I got too much from him. So I'm just waiting to get more.
Yeah.
Same, Jessen.
Chaol is someone that people's opinions will change many, many times. Like my opinions changed many times about him. They're also young. Yeah. Well, again, you're right, Carly. He is 22. I was wrong. Dorian's 19. She's 18. That is exactly where I say like it's YA. This book was YA. That's why they all have to be that age, because of things that will happen with him later. We can't have him be 30, even though that would make sense because it's YA, and we can, even though Celaena like starts the series at 18, we have to be careful. Can't do that.
I think, Kristen, to your point, I think, my feelings are as complicated about Chaol as Chaol is complicated. Like, I feel like he's young and he's got a lot on his plate and he wants to prove himself as worthy, and he takes his responsibilities really seriously. And as a result, he can come across like a jerk sometimes, where I'm like, why are you yelling? And why are you so angry all the time? But at the same time, he's like, he doesn't want to be taken advantage of because he doesn't know if he can fully trust Celaena. He doesn't really trust her, but then his feelings are complicated about her, and he sees what's going on with Dorian. And so I think that he's got a lot going on, like a lot of emotional turmoil going on within him, and it comes out in a gruff sort of, really brisk way. So I think, like Jen said, my feelings change about him. So in the beginning, I dislike him, but then I start to understand him, but then I'm confused by him, and then I start to like him, and then I'm upset with him. And so it's a little bit manic, in terms of where I am with him. So I don't know how you guys feel.
So you're saying it's going to be a roller coaster
with him? 100%.
I think so.
Okay, I'm probably going to slaughter his name, Chaol, right? Is that how we say it?
Chaol, yep.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, I loved that when he first saw Celaena, that he disliked her, and I love that. And at the end, when he gives her the sword, it's like a sign of respect. Like he respected her to where she became like, they almost created like this relationship of like respect. And I just love how that developed through the story for them, because it was like, because you could tell at the very beginning he didn't trust her, he didn't like her. Like he's just like, I have to deal with you because Dorian says so. But I just love
the important thing about him is like he has convictions, and the law is his conviction. So I mean that's why he doesn't like Celaena. She's literally in prison for what for being a murderer. Like an assassin is a murderer. So why is he going to trust her to be standing right next to his best friend and prince? Like, if he isn't being suspicious of him, he's a horrible captain of the guard. Like, let's be clear. Like, we know Celaena isn't just going to kill Dorian, but how does Chaol know that?
100%. Like, but I love the ending where he was just like, here's my sword. And it just was just such a respectful, like, thing to be like, here's my weapon. And it was beautiful. I loved it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, see, there's a team. Someone picked a team. Well, we can still be team. It doesn't have to be team Chaol and Celaena together. It could be, we just like, yay, team Chaol. That's great. Chaol's cool. He's a stoic one. I like the stoic ones.
I do too. So I tend to like the asshole heroes. So I'm more intrigued, be like, why are you an asshole? Why are you like this? So
yeah, it's a great character. All righty, let's get into some more speculation. Okay, so if y'all didn't catch this, the king of Adarlan, his name is Dorian, which is confusing. So we have to say it's King Dorian of Adarlan. Did I spell that right? I think I spelled it. I did spell it right. But what do we think of our king? We don't see a ton of him in this one, just little bits.
He's shady. That's what I got from him. He's super shady.
Yep.
Yeah.
He doesn't trust his son either, I don't think.
And I think he has more information than we know. I think he knows a lot more than we got.
Well, so the ending with his conversation with, what was his name, Parrington or whatever, I was just like, It's like the classic example of like, he doesn't want anybody else to have these certain like powers or magical abilities or anything, but like what's not okay for everybody else, like maybe okay for him to use it so that he can have power. So I'm just like, what shady shit are you hiding from everybody? Because it seems like you're hiding a lot.
I agree with you, Justin. And it felt like, because wasn't he the one, it was because of him that all the magical systems and the libraries were destroyed and the books were taken away. Like, so there's some information.
He's hiding info.
Yeah, that he doesn't want anybody else to have, number one. And number two, I was like, what's going on with these gargoyles and this pillar and these word things? What were they called? Word gates. Why is this all centered in this one area in his kingdom? And that's all done, obviously, at his behest. He knows it. So there's something he knows that all the rest of us don't know that he's trying to hide from everybody else.
Yeah. Bad guy vibes on the way. Interesting. It is, so he's been a king for a very long time. Well, not a very long time. So he's in his 40s. I was trying to find the thing so that I could say this right, but he's in his 40s. He's been a king for like all of his adulthood. So it's a very interesting thing that something happened 8 years ago that made him that made him overtake Terrasen and ban everything. There is something heretofore that we do not know that caused that to happen, because everything was fine before then. Like, he was cool with them still having magic, right? And then 8 years ago, something happens that causes him to. So that I feel like is the biggest thing to pay attention to, but otherwise, obviously we're going to be finding that out. And yes, good job. There were rings that they were wearing. Very interesting.
And something's going up with the king because he's plotting with the Duke, about doing those things to what Chaol and Catelyn or Catin. I don't even know. I'm terrible with names, guys. Sorry.
I don't even know what I called her in my messages to Jen. I said it completely wrong. I was like, the Cain name, that girl.
Well, he obviously knows what's going on because you're like, oh, I told the Duke to ease up on whatever he was doing to them. So it's like, he's performing something. We just don't know what yet.
Yeah. Rings of power. Yeah. She's like, it reminds me of Lord of the Rings. I like it. Yeah. And that's part of, we'll talk about her in a second, but of what's happening to Cain and them is like why she's doing certain things and why things are happening. So did he deal with the devil?
I like these thoughts.
Do we find out in the future, like, was the Duke drugging her? Like, did he know? Because she was having those headaches.
Well,
I thought it had something to do with the rings.
That's literally what they're talking about.
Okay.
Right here.
That went over my head then.
Well, there's the hint because when she's talking with the Duke, she will comment on his ring and that it's like vibrating or moving, or there's something happening to it that's like giving you a hint that because we're in her POV and she's thinking of doing one thing and then he'll say something to her and her like mind will change about like what she wants to do and she'll like notice his ring or something, you know, so that's how that's like.
Okay, that went over my head.
Yeah. See, Joe, this is where like I disagree because she's being controlled. She's this vapid girl who would not have poisoned someone, who would not have done those things. Yeah. So I don't think she's horrible, but you can have that opinion, Joe, if you want.
She just wants to marry.
Look, I'm gonna back up Joe because I also told this to Jen while I was reading it. I'm like, I don't care about her. All she wants to do is be with Dorian, and she's being a mean girl. And I was like, I just don't care about her. And Jen's just like, just wait.
I mean, her mind is
don't
literally
judge characters. No, I know that. I mean, you find that out later, but like she was very superficial. I mean, she was written intentionally to be superficial whenever we're introduced to her, and then we find out later that there's more that meets the eye. But yeah, I didn't like her. She didn't interest me.
Yeah,
Joe means what's happening to her as well. That's why you hate it. You hate what's happening. Okay, good. So you know what's happening. Like my point is like there's more. Cain's not dead, so
she just wants to be the princess.
There is. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she was a mean girl who has her mind like there was something too. Like this was something I told Justin with no context clues. I said, Sarah J. Maas never writes a woman just to be a bitch. She does not write women who are just a bitch. So if you meet a woman and you think she's a bitch, I know I keep saying bitch, but it's woman. Assume that person's character is not done yet. Because one of the things that I only notice now, like looking back, I mean, I can count on one hand any of the women she's written that are like just there to be like a stereotypical person. Like if she introduced you, specifically if she gives you a POV of that, how about we say that? Like if she gives you a POV of a person, they have a journey to go on. And especially the women. Like this series, the women in this series. So Cain is definitely one of those that I'm not saying she's one of the stars of the show we're going to see, but they all have their parts to play. But yes, but Jen, she just wanted Dorian and he didn't want her. But she was also promised Dorian. So let's like keep it in context too. She's a vapid girl who's brought there. She's like with Parrington, but she's also promised that she can have Dorian. So she sees Celaena as being in her way of her because she was promised that she could have him. So that doesn't make her a perfect person. I'm not saying she but I think she deserves some sympathy of like, she's also a child who has been told she can have the short prince and she was tricked. Like she was tricked and controlled. I'm not saying she's a great person. There's more to her.
My sympathy is very low, but I'm not saying I won't have more sympathy for her later on. But again, we don't get a lot of her besides her being mean. So
yeah, it's fun to watch you people. Right. Thought she was dictatorial. Yep, there's that too.
I missed. That's how I felt. I was like, wait, what is this?
Yeah. That is great. She's like, Cain's vanity was on a similar level to Celaena. That is not wrong. Oh,
no, and I totally agree with that because that was one of the things I'm like, please, Celaena, stop talking about how amazing you are and how beautiful you are in this dress and how dare he not notice that I'm wearing this dress? Like, doesn't he not want to kiss me? And I was like, Celaena, shut the fuck up. I was like, stop it.
To me too. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, see, though, it's things like that that made her age really like noticeable.
Yes. I was like,
it
she's
very-
so young. So young.
Funny, you should ask Rhea, because guess who the next person is. So
She's
let's-
cool. I liked her.
loved her.
Everybody loves her.
She was most interesting to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
She.
I have a question for the newbie readers. At any point, did you guys think she was evil?
No. I
No,
didn't think that she was evil.
I thought it was very much a pairing situation, like meant to make you see that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like if she was suspecting her, I was like, well, it's not her. She's like, maybe she's evil. I'm like, well, now it's not. Definitely, absolutely not her.
Yeah. No, I don't think she ever. I mean, even Celaena only thinks it for like a day, you know.
Right.
She's like, okay, there's a lot of coincidences about these things I've seen, but
Right, because I think she was trying to throw people off, but like I never was like, she can't be evil. There's no way. Like I don't get that. But like I think she was trying to throw people off, and I don't think it happened that way.
I love evil. See, Joe was like, I did think she was evil. Well, of anyone in the story, she has a reason to be evil.
Right.
Because
100%.
they murder all of her people. And it isn't until after the slaughter that happens that Celaena is like, oh, well, maybe she wants revenge or something, you know? I love her. She's the most badass character in this book. Let's just say it.
Yeah.
The best character in this.
She seemed like she just had the most information out of all the characters with like what was going on, all the word marks and stuff, and I knew she knew about them. She's like, oh, don't worry about those. I don't know. Don't worry about those, Celaena. Don't look deeper. Like
more than she was letting on, for sure.
Yeah.
I love it. She was like, yeah, I kept getting mad. He kept wiping them away, and I have to run back and put
like,
them back
damn
in
it, I'm trying to protect you.
Making my
Washing
job
them.
difficult.
Yes.
I really loved their first meeting whenever, you know, Celaena knew her language and was able to communicate. I loved that. I was like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I love how she was pretending like to not know the language. Smart cookie. Everything that she was doing made me think of her as a very smart character. And that was my impression of her.
And I loved when she gave her the sword at the end. And was like, I want you to use.
Well, the staff.
The staff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want you to use this from my country.
Symbolism.
What is that? Take him down with a Novia blade or a Novia staff or whatever. Was it?
Yeah.
I forget the name of their
weapon is like Endovir. She's like down with this. Oh boy, everyone really likes it. Okay.
It was like, let the wood be stronger than their steel or something. That was pretty. I mean, the way she wrote it was chef's kiss.
Yeah, I agree. The champion. Yes, that's what I was going to say. I was like, it was obvious that every time someone died, that stupid guy, Cain or whatever his name was, got beefier and more menacing. And
like,
okay.
My opinion on this too is that I don't feel like it's supposed to be a secret who's doing it. We know pretty early on who's doing it. It's who showed him how to do it and who's controlling him to have him do it. I think that's more of the and
I never thought that he knew. Like, I knew he was a pawn. I just didn't know who exactly was behind it.
Right, and it's even obvious that Parrington's the one controlling him because we have that. I think the part that's I mean, again, and not a shock, but it's that like the king is the one with the Duke, and then the Duke is him. You know, it's this, it's that thing where like we get revealed about who's doing each thing, and it leads all the way back to the king, which is what's happening. Forgotten the name. His name is King. Yeah, the Duke's champion. King. We all know that. Yeah. Nice. Yep. See, I mean, well, I can understand her enjoying it. I felt horrible. Oh my God. Because I don't think she knew half of what she did between the drugs and the mind control. And I think the first time I was very satisfied because I was like, girl, you deserve it, bitch. I was like, you might have been or whatever. That's one of the situations where further on, I was like, oh man. But it was a cruel twist that she thought that she was controlling the Duke and he was really the one using her. Like that was a like, oh, that sucks for you.
Yeah. To think you're like running the game, but yet you're the pawn in the game.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Lori?
That was something I mentioned to Jen. I was like, why is she looking at her forehead? Is that some third eye type of thing? Like, what's going on? What does she know about Celaena that Celaena doesn't know? So I was interested about that too.
So, okay, we kind of talked about them. So I'm going to like skip because there's some other things I want to talk about. We've basically mentioned these people along the way. They're not super relevant beyond this book anyway, besides Cain, but and we kind of talked about this. Let's go to the magic stuff. Let's talk about the magic elements. And someone had mentioned a comment back. This one I didn't make a comment, but something that's extremely important in this series specifically, and in some of the other ones too, is the names that people have and what they mean and where they come from. And so Nehemia renames her during a part of this book. She gives her, I can't pronounce this one, Alentia,
yeah.
Which is obviously has something to do with Celaena. Like it's a remix of her name. Also Celaena, the like ghostly
past queen. Yeah.
She's very interesting too. So what do we think of the bits of magic that have been revealed? What things do we think Celaena is aware of and what not? I don't know another way to ask that, but
well, I was kind of really excited in the beginning when they were still journeying to the city or whatever, and they were in the woods, and she was telling like the stories about Faye, and then she had woken up and saw like, was it footprints or was there flowers? Like I can't quite remember, but I was like, ooh, I was like, secret Faye, I love this. They're still kind of there, and I wanted more of it. So I was looking for more of that, and I've already said I was really bored with the assassin game stuff, and so toward the end when all of that cool shit was happening and nobody could see all of the ghostly, like I was like, oh, this is what I'm looking for. So I was very satisfied with that at the end, so I want more of that.
Yeah, that's what I focused on too, Jess. And I was like paying attention to, so there was the part when the tapestry was first like, and she discovered the tunnel and the passageway. And I really honed in on that. It said that she heard whisperings in a long forgotten language. So I like paid attention to that. And I also paid attention to when she was in the library or when she like came across that book of the Walking Dead. And she felt like an energy and she felt whisperings and murmurings coming from that I was like, oh, this is significant again, because it's talking about in this language of like long forgotten times or whatever. So I think that that's relevant. And then of course, I want to know more about these word marks. How many of them are there? Where are they coming from? How do they relate to the word gates? And I think Nehemia and like her people have like access to that information to be able to kind of unlock that information as well. So some of it, I feel like Celaena attunes to and kind of says that's interesting, and others of it she just doesn't even, it's this way over her head and she doesn't even pay attention to it because there's so much going on, you know.
And this is that is a thing. So good catch for thinking that, Renee, because that is a thing. It was both footprints and flowers. I'm intrigued by her saying she had magic in her own blood. Yeah.
Well, of course, there was the magic calls to magic, which is, like calls to like, which happens in other.
Well, even sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
You even get the Ritterak, those evil demon guys that are like kicking her butt at the end. Like, those were really cool, how she like created those, and they came from the other world or something like that, and they brought them over. Like, that magic is really interesting to see how that's going to play into this whole world.
I had lots of Crescent City vibes with the whole word gate and the calling people deep things from other places. I was like,
Yeah.
Finally, this was a really good thing for you to notice. Her parents were killed. at the same time that something happened in Terrasen. That's a good.
Well, whenever she first was meeting with the king and Chaol was telling her you have to bow to him, make sure, and she was just so angry about it, and that's why I was it feels more personal against the king, whenever she's not just oh, you're a bad dude that changed a lot of things. It felt personal. So
people are guessing some very smart things that maybe we won't focus on too long. We'll keep going by. I know it's your first time reading the book, so that's why I showed that. If somebody else, I'd be like, nope. Celaena's POV was cringy in the first book. Yeah, sometimes it is. Mm-hmm. Well, and this is what I mean too of later on we'll be frustrated by what Celaena chooses to think in these first couple books, because this is what I mean by you're an unreliable narrator, okay? It's very frustrating. But I understand. Obviously, Sarah can't have her be oh, I know exactly what's happening at this moment. But
I love when she got the necklace, and Dorian was he was this is a lost necklace that people have there was a necklace that looked like that called the Eye of Elena that people have been looking for forever.
Yeah.
And that
it's literally in the picture. It's in the tapestry in her room.
Yeah.
And now she has it.
And Dorian has a lot of information on that too. He went through the whole, and he's oh, this is a story that I was told as a child, but he knows all the details. And I'm how do you know all that information? And how do you know exactly just from being told a bedtime story? So it made me kind of go, I don't know.
He's a reader too. And he gets his hands on some things that nobody else would be allowed to have, because since he's
And Jen, I'm going to go along with what you had said. I think Sarah didn't quite know which way she was going to go. So a lot of stuff that came later, it's because she added it. And that's why it wasn't mentioned in this one for sure.
Yeah, there's certain things you can definitely infer from it. But because also they say, because Elena, when she's talking with her, her and her husband were the rulers of Terrasen. And we know that Celaena has royal blood and she is a descendant of her. So, and her family died 8 years ago. And then she washed up, at the feet of what's his face and all those things. So it's we can put those very basic framework together without it being those things are there. We don't know why she had to choose to become the assassin and why she's not acknowledging now that she knows any of this shit. And she's keep it all away from you. We don't know those things. So
key things. Yeah.
But that's kind of what's coming out. Love that Dorian recognized the necklace. Yes. He's a smart one. He's not that's the other thing too, is he's not a dumb prince. He may be a little bit more passive than we'd like him to be, but he's not stupid. He's way he just needs the right incentive to come into his own,
Yeah, that was my basic impression of Dorian. He just was led a very kind of safe life so far. So it's stuff needs to happen to him to get him moving.
Yeah, he's book smart, not street smart.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the street smarts that come along with, but he knows enough because he reads a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's funny is I was thinking about this too, and it's something that we talked about later. But I'm gonna Chaol. Did I just say that wrong?
You're fine. We know who you mean.
You know how you were saying he was 22 and stuff, and he's captain of the guard, but he had never killed anybody, except for Cain. Right? I'm how do you become captain of the guard without killing anybody? Sorry, it was just a random thought, but I'm interesting.
Yeah. He's just too good at his job. He catches them before, and I don't know. No, it doesn't make sense. But yes, we will suspend disbelief and be yes, you are the captain of the guard.
I feel that's something Sarah didn't realize she was saying. That is a weird, where she's I've never killed anyone before. And you might be how long? Because even if you're only 22, you definitely were a soldier before you were doing, you haven't killed anyone.
Right, you need to kill 100
they're
people.
in the middle of a war too. It just doesn't make sense that he would not have experience. It just is weird.
Unless because he does have noble, but if he was purely a bodyguard and a strategist, maybe he's not the leader of the army. He's captain of guard who they protect people. So I mean, I can make the logic, you know, like if you are an overpaid security guard, you're probably haven't killed anyone. You probably had to. But it is weird. Like, it's weird. Well,
You know,
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
no, you go.
No, I was gonna, because we were talking about like, you know, this like magic and the magical system. The other thing that sort of rings strange to me is how do you, like they said that like magic is wiped out of this universe or this area because it's on the king's order. So the king did away with magic. How does that happen? How can he wipe out magic on his orders? Like I don't
just
understand.
assumed that it was forbidden, not
That's
like
forbidden.
it was gone. Like I
Right.
assumed that it was just like you cannot use it, and if you're caught, bad things will happen. He will know. That's what I assumed, not that it was gone. Especially since like we had that little hint of the Fae in the beginning. I'm like, well, it can't be gone if there's still Fae around, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he tempted it by burning all the books and whatnot, right? Like he
Right.
tempted to squash it out.
Well, and the people where he lives, they don't innately have magic in their blood. There are things they can do that involve magic without having it in your blood. But if you don't have the implements to do the magic, you don't do it. Whereas in Terrasen, the people have it in their blood and they can do it. You know, they don't have to use, you know, markings or have a conduit for it. You know, they don't have to do that. So if you're forbidden to do it, then you're not doing it. You know, it's like, if I want to bake a cake, I have to go get the implements to bake it, and then I baked a cake. But if I don't have the implements, I can't just make a cake. Does that make sense? Like, that's kind
Like
of
some people need a wand and some people don't need a wand. You can
Right.
just
right. Well, that's the thing. Like you know, and also like people of Terrasen, they're not innately Fae. Like there is Fae in this world, and then there's people who can do magic. You know, like we'll learn more, but like
distinction. Yeah.
right. There's people who are literally Fae, like, you know, like some magical people we love in her other books where they can they have powers. And then there's people who you can have conduits for the magic and you can do magical things. So
Right.
those are different.
Like conductors that help you do magic.
Right. Like you can do a spell by,
Right.
you know, like Nehemia does. Like she does magic.
Right.
But she doesn't innately have it in herself.
Her
She
blood.
has to like make the mark, you know, she has to do that. So, and or also be like possessed by Celaena when she's doing it, you know.
Right.
Like that. It seemed like magic was hiding. That's Carly, you're picking things up. You are noticing smart things because that's a good thing to notice.
Right.
There may or may not be something the magic is very afraid of. So maybe we'll find out. Celaena didn't say that magic hid itself because it knew it was being hunted. Didn't Celaena? Okay. Did she? I agree. How do you defeat magic? I would think magic would be able to defeat it, right? But if you kill every person who's doing it, Wendy,
Yeah.
then how's it going to keep going? Like, there has to be someone there to do the magic.
Or teach the spells or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Pass on the legacy.
Yeah.
And again, like, to be clear, the people in Terrasen, they aren't necessarily Fae, is what we'll say. Like, they're...
But we don't know that much
Right.
in this book about Terrasen, so we haven't gotten there yet.
We just know that in all of the land there was magic, but specifically magic was powerful there. The king and queen were killed. Everything's been banned. Books burned. Everything's done. You're not supposed to do it. It's not supposed to be around.
I am so excited for you guys to read the other books right now.
I know. I get more. I'm also very excited to reread Crown of Midnight, even though
Me too.
that one was tougher for me. At the time, it was tougher for me. But I'm very excited to reread it now because
Me too.
I'm all in.
There's going to be such good stuff in there. But like all the other books I've read twice, but these were the ones I'd only read once. So
Right. Same. That's too funny.
yeah.
It was like book 3 on. I read again.
The first time I read Air of Fire, I skipped the first like 30% of the book.
I was like, no.
I was like, fuck this character. I don't want to read about that. And then I was like, I have made an error. I have
Back now.
everyone who's read it before knows what I'm talking about. Where I was like,
you like backtrack real fast.
really. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if there's a POV that you don't like, read that one even more than you read the other ones, because you probably put that person in there because you're gonna want to die for them soon. So, like, if there's a POV that pops up and you're like, this is boring, don't skip it. Because I do that all the time. Like, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, damn it. I reread pretty much when I finished that one. Like, well, I had Queen of Shadows at the time, so I read that one, Queen of Shadows, and then I went back and read Air of Fire again, because I was like, that's when I had to wait. I had to wait for Empire of Storms. Yeah. Hurts a bit. Okay. Cool. Yes, I know, Tori. I know. Mine
too, Tori. Mine too.
Oh my gosh, who doesn't like that book is the question.
Yeah. The last bit of the book wore it for me, but the Crown of Midnight in the beginning, I was like, okay, we're taking our time. But okay, was there anything that like I didn't touch on that you guys want to go over? Because we're coming to an hour and a half here, and I'm not in a rush. I just mean, I feel like we went through all the main points that I had I also had this. I feel like we don't really have to talk about anything about the novellas. I just want them peppered in so we get to them.
Yeah.
If there's any part of it you want to point out, we can. Otherwise,
I do have one thing I wanted to. Do you want to go? You want to go, Carrie? Go ahead.
No. You go ahead.
I was like thinking about Cain, and I just wanted to see what you guys thought about. And I wrote down this like little quote that he said, because I was just like, oh, I think this is like telling, but I want to see what you guys all thought about it. Where he said at the very end, when they're like at the battle, and Nehemia is involved, and he said, "You were all brought here, and you're all players in an unfinished game." Did you guys like hone in on that and like take away? Because I was just like, for me, that like sets everything up. Like, I want to know what that game is and who are the players and who brought us here and what did he mean by that? Like, I don't know. I felt like it was an ominous sort of foreshadowing.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was ominous, but I was like, it's the end of the book. We're not getting answers for that yet. So it was just kind of like setting it all up. I was like, damn.
Yeah, it was set up for the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Okay. She popped in about, I know. Stacey, that's why I like never read all of those ones. And I'm going to make myself read them this time. I don't want to meet the sweet boy that's going to die.
Oh, so you haven't read all the novellas? You haven't read the novellas in the past, Jen?
I've only read the first two. I read The Pirate Lord and The Assassin and the Healer before Tower of Dawn came out. I read that one.
Well, that was smart because I accidentally read the whole thing and it did spoil some of it for like later. I'm like, I didn't need to know this yet. Right. So like to read this book first is not necessarily a good thing. Like, because you sit there and it's like, who is this character of this? It wasn't a good plan to read it all at the same time. So read it how Jen had planned it, because that's going to be the best way to do it.
I don't know how perfect it fits for like the last couple. I just know the first few are okay to read before. But I mean, she did, because that book came out after Queen of Shadows or after Air of Fire. I can't remember.
One of those. I think you're right. Yeah.
Right. But that's why like there's spoilers going up to, so if we read it all at once right now, because when I was putting it together, I was like, oh, should we read the novella bind up first? But I also was like, people will be very bored. They will not want to read anymore if they only read the novellas. So we're going to mix them.
Mix them in. Yeah, that was brilliant.
You fall in love with it, and then they're like backfill information, because we already heard about the desert. The desert gets mentioned in this one.
Right.
The Pirate Lord thing gets mentioned in it. Those things. She references those things, and then she wrote this novella bind up. So.
And I will mention one thing is the Pirate Lord. You'll see him again, so remember the story.
Well, yeah, that's why we're reading all these.
Yeah. The
healer we'll see again. Like, we'll see the people again.
Yeah. Right.
That's why we want to fit it in beforehand, but there's no way. Yes, I know, Renee. Renee's almost done with Crown of Midnight. She even said, I'm not going to put up your other comment, Renee, because you said stuff in it, but Yeah. I think they help a bit too. I still think I'm like, there's no way a 16-year-old is doing this and the older people, but I like seeing her be like, as soon as she finds out there's slaves on this boat, she's like, well, we're blowing it up. It's happening. Like, that's
Right.
the gut reaction of her. And I love that. And we're going to see soon how he felt about her doing that. Her assassin man, how he felt about it. So yeah.
She
I
she
guess
feels a little.
yeah, go ahead, Carrie.
No. Go ahead. I talk too much.
I feel like I talk too much. That's why I'm like, no, go. Like, my initial reaction, Jen, when you say that about Celaena is I'm glad. Obviously, it's like, a slave ship and like, they're collecting slaves. So we feel a certain way about that. And so you want an injustice to be righted. But at the same time, Celaena does what Celaena is going to do, regardless of how it impacts anybody else. This is what I'm doing. Get on board. And if you're not, I'm moving. And if it hurts you, I'm sorry, because this is the right thing to do. So I feel a little bit conflicted. Like, obviously you want her to do the right thing and save these people, but do you want to do that at the expense of harming somebody that she says she cares about? So that's where I sort of struggle. And throughout the series, we'll see that in her.
Right.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I didn't want to say anything, because I was just like, man, she's just kind of like a ticking time bomb, and she just does whatever she wants to do. And I don't particularly like that in a character. So even though she was doing something good, I was still annoyed with her for doing it. And I was like, that sounds bad.
Yeah. She was like, consequences be damned.
Yeah.
Well, and
I'm just a good person and I must free these slaves. I'm like, of course you are, but also do it smartly,
Right.
And
she doesn't do it with any subtlety at all.
No.
But the thing though that is really frustrating is when you fully comprehend who she is later on, you're like, why were you such a fucking reckless person? You could literally doom the whole world because you want to do this type of thing. It's that, like, the more you know about her and all these things as we go, you're like, you were so reckless and you could have ruined things for everyone because you want to be crazy. Like, just saying.
And this brings up her age, because since she's so young, like this totally feels like it fits for her age. But I feel like her coolness factor went up though after sitting in that seat and getting the seal ring, because she was in that seat and then she ended up getting the ring. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm like, okay, that's badass right there.
Yeah. Nope, she definitely too, like, a lot of things we'll see happen in the Assassin's Blade is like some of them will help her in the future of allies she's made, and some of them will be enemies that she's made. So that's a lot of what happens in there too. Is like sometimes she's done good by people and it's a good thing, and sometimes she causes problems for herself.
Right.
So, yeah, I want to start it right away too. We'll probably end up binging these at some point and then regret it because I'll forget everything. But I love these so much. Yeah. Well, yeah. I think those were kind of the main things. I mean, this is so cool. I'm so glad we're doing this. I'm so glad that we're gonna keep going through these. It'll be so great.
Thank you for organizing this.
I know. Thank you so much for including me and everybody.
Yeah. No, I'm so excited. We have lots of new people involved in this too. I think it's a great thing. Speaking as the wise old booktuber that I am, I think that when you are a newer channel or you're on Bookstagram and you want to be on BookTube, getting a part of a readathon or a read along is a great thing to do, because you don't have to have set anything up. You can just talk about the books that you read and make a bunch of new friends who all like the same thing as you because you read this, So we got a whole year together. It's going to be so much fun.
It was a lot of work, Jen, and you put a lot of work into organizing this and just being so organized and putting it together. So thank you so much. Because when you said, let's do it, I was like, yes, that's amazing. And then I was like, wait, that's a lot of work. And then all of a sudden we got Excel spreadsheets and I was like, yay.
Right. Everyone watching, I did make a ginormous spreadsheet of of things.
There's a lot of behind the scenes that people don't realize. But yeah, thank you for doing all that.
Oh, you're welcome. It's gonna be great. Yeah, the next live show will be for Crown of Midnight and for The Assassin and the Healer, and that is on April
30th
at the same time on my channel.
Yeah.
So
I'm totally sitting on my hands because I'm telling you, I put down Throne of Glass and I was like, oh, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it. Slow down, because you know me, Jen, I will just blow through books.
I know you do.
And I will forget it all, so I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
I'm very proud of you for your restraint. You read, y'all, you read all 9 Outlander books within a month. Like,
whoa!
In the month of November, she read them all. So,
girl,
she's
that
really
is
showing
right there.
It's so difficult.
I could never. Those books are like this big. They're like
it took me 15 months, and I only went.
Oh, no way!
It took me 15 months. It took forever.
Yeah, so I'm doing it. So, and I'm doing like you, Jess, and I'm like taking notes. I'm like having copious notes on all of it, so I don't forget, so we can put it all together. Because I feel like
I love taking notes.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
I need to take better notes for the second one. For this one, I made a few notes, but I mostly was just like listening and enjoying it. But I don't want, like, the whole reason I really want to do this reread is I want to notice everything. So I'm like, I need to pay attention. But all right.
And see, even for the reread, I missed things. And you guys brought them up and like, oh yeah, man, I missed that.
But that's the beauty of a read along. We can all
Right.
discuss it and people notice things and it's like, oh yeah, you're right. So that's what makes this fun.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'll just do this. I need to do this. I think it is, Rhea, in my opinion. But we're going to read it together if you want to wait until we get to it. I mean, we won't get to that one until January, but that one is tough. I won't lie. But the audiobook helped me get through it. I would never have made it through that book without an audiobook. But I love it so much. Like, I ordered merch, you guys. It's not here yet, but I ordered a merch for each series. And I got a lighted up shirt, and I literally like burst into tears just looking at it.
Yeah.
So, I need it.
I feel like what Carrie said really hit home for me for this book. Like, I felt like it was information dump. Like, I was just like so overwhelmed. And I know we're not talking about that right now, but I was like,
loved it.
Yeah. Here's why this is amazing. When we get to that one, what are we going to know now that we didn't know then? Because I even have read all the other books and I was just like, I don't know what all of this means. I would understand a word here or then, but I bet it's going to be amazing. We're just going to be like, I love all the info dump, you know, this.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you're trying to do a lot right now. And I'm just like overwhelmed.
For me,
So
I guess,
oh, sorry, Carrie.
No, that's okay. I think for me, info dump needs to have like some payment in the, like, as it goes along, not just like info dump for half the book and then a little bit longer and then payment at the end. Like, I needed at least it chopped up just a little bit.
Yeah. All right.
So House of Earth and Blood was the only book that I've reread by Sarah J. Maas so far. I really loved it. Like, I was like, this is awesome.
She reread it before she wrote Skybread.
I did. I was like, this is my bread and butter. I love it.
All right.
Okay, then I'm deep. Okay.
I'm going to end the live part. Hold on. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for coming. We'll see you in like 2.5 weeks for the next one. I'm so excited we're doing this together. And chat with us in the Discord as you read it. And it's going to be amazing. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.
Bye.